Evan had always believed that the galaxy was too loud for people like him. The research station named Haven Delta floated quietly near a blue gas giant, but inside it was full of noise, movement, and powerful beings from many worlds. Tall insectoids clicked as they walked. Heavy-scaled warriors shook the floor with each step. Light-based beings glowed as they passed through walls. Compared to them, Evan looked small and breakable. He was human. That alone made most aliens treat him like fragile equipment. Evan worked as a systems technician. He fixed panels, checked sensors, and repaired machines that others were too big or too proud to touch. He liked the quiet corners of the station, the hum of machines, and the feeling that his work mattered even if no one noticed him. Most days, he kept his head down. Today was different. He was in the shared recreation hall, kneeling on the floor near a broken gravity stabilizer. The room was large, with wide windows showing the swirling blue planet outside. A group of off-duty crew members stood nearby, talking and laughing while Evan worked. Among them was Lyra. Lyra belonged to the Keltari, a species known across the galaxy for their strength and playful nature. She looked mostly humanoid, but taller than Evan by almost a head. Her skin had a soft silver-blue tone, and faint glowing lines ran along her arms and neck, changing color with her mood. She was laughing loudly, her voice bright and confident. "Humans really fix things by sitting on the floor," Lyra said, tilting her head as she watched Evan work. "You are so small, don't your knees break?" A few others chuckled. Evan felt his ears grow warm. He didn't look up. "The floor is fine," he said quietly. "Gravity stabilizer should be online in a minute." Lyra stepped closer, curiosity shining in her eyes. She crouched beside him, studying the open panel. "You don't look scared at all," she said. "Most humans panic when machines fail." "I panic later," Evan replied honestly. That made Lyra laugh again. She liked his answers. They were simple, real. Someone from the group said jokingly, "Careful, Lyra, you might crush him if you get too close." Lyra's eyes sparkled with mischief. "Crush him," she repeated. "This one." Before Evan could react, Lyra shifted her weight and in a clearly playful and careless move, lowered herself onto him. She did not mean harm. To her, it was a joke, proof of how light and harmless humans were compared to her kind. Her weight pressed down on Evan's shoulders and back. The laughter stopped instantly. For a single heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the floor beneath them gave off a deep, low hum. Lights flickered across the room. The gravity stabilizer Evan had been repairing suddenly shut itself down completely. Warning symbols flashed red along the walls. The metal floor vibrated, not violently, but enough that everyone felt it through their feet. Lyra's smile vanished. She jumped up immediately. I didn't mean." Evan remained where he was, hands still on the panel, breathing hard. Sensors across the room activated on their own. Medical scanners swept over him in blue light. A sharp tone echoed through the hall as the station system detected something it did not understand. "What did you do?" someone whispered. Evan slowly stood up. He felt strange. Not hurt, not crushed, just heavy. His heartbeat was loud in his ears. His muscles felt tight like coiled cables. The air around him seemed thicker, pressing against his skin. He looked down at his hands. They were shaking not from fear but from something unfamiliar. Lyra stared at him, her playful confidence gone. "Evan, are you injured?" "I don't think so," he said. His voice sounded deeper, even to himself. The station's emergency protocol announced calmly, "Unidentified biological response detected." That made everyone step back. Evan felt suddenly exposed. He had never liked attention, and now every eye in the room was on him. "It's probably a mistake," he said quickly. "I just finished the repair." But the repair panel began to glow, then powered back on by itself. Energy readings spiked far above normal levels. The station commander's voice came over the speakers. "All personnel in Recreation Hall 3 remain where you are. Medical team en route." Lyra swallowed. Guilt twisted in her chest. Her species played rough, but this felt wrong. I shouldn't have done that, she said quietly. Humans are not built like us. Evan shook his head. You didn't hurt me, he said. I just reacted. Reacted how? She asked. Before he could answer, the medical team arrived. Small floating drones circled him, scanning his body. The results made no sense. No fractures. The lead medic, a thin avian alien, looked confused. This response should not be possible, it said. Human biology is not designed for this. Evan felt his legs weaken. The strange pressure faded, leaving him exhausted. He sat down slowly, breathing hard. Lyra knelt in front of him, her glowing lines dim with worry. Are you sure you are all right? He met her eyes. I don't know, he admitted. The recreation hall stayed silent. No one laughed anymore. Later, Evan was escorted to the medical wing. Word spread quickly through the station. The quiet human technician had triggered something ancient and unexpected. As he lay on the examination bed, staring at the ceiling lights, his mind raced. He had always thought humans were weak in a galaxy full of giants. But for one brief moment, his body had disagreed. And somewhere deep inside him, something had stirred, something that had been sleeping for a very long time. The medical wing of Haven Delta was quieter than the rest of the station, but Evan could not relax. He lay on a smooth white bed while soft lights moved slowly across the ceiling. Thin bands of blue energy held his arms and legs in place, not restraints, the doctors said, just stabilizers. Even so, Evan felt nervous. He had never been the center of attention before, and now half the station seemed focused on him. Around the room, several alien medics worked in silence. Floating screens showed lines of data that Evan could not understand. Symbols changed color. Numbers rose and fell. Every few seconds, a soft alert sound echoed, then stopped. This reading is repeating, one medic said. That is not possible, another replied. Evan turned his head slightly. Am I in danger? He asked. The lead medic, the avian one from earlier, stepped closer. Its feathers were pale gray, a sign of deep focus. At this moment, no, it said carefully. But your biological response is unexpected. Evan swallowed. Unexpected bad or unexpected strange, the medic paused. Both. That did not help. Across the room, Lyra stood near the wall. Her arms were crossed tightly against her chest. The glowing lines on her skin were dull and slow, showing worry instead of playfulness. She had not left since Evan arrived. Every time a machine beeped, she flinched. This was her fault. At least that was how she felt. I should not be here, she said quietly, mostly to herself. Evan heard her anyway. You don't have to go, he said. I'm glad someone familiar is here. She looked at him, surprised. You are not angry, he thought about it. He remembered the weight, the sudden pressure, the strange strength that followed. He remembered the fear in the room, not fear of Lyra, but fear of him. No, he said honestly. Confused, yes. Tired, yes, but not angry. Lyra stepped closer to the bed. My species plays too much, she said. We forget others are not like us. Humans are known to be delicate. Evan gave a small smile. I've been called worse. That made her release a short, nervous laugh, but it did not last long. One of the medics turned a screen so the others could see. The human's muscle fibers temporarily rearranged, it said. Density increased by a factor of 7. Bone structure reinforced without fracture. Pain response suppressed. Another medic shook its head. That is a combat adaptation. Humans do not have those. Evan felt a chill. Combat, he repeated. The avian medic faced him again. Long ago, early humans may have possessed extreme survival traits. Records are unclear. Most species believed those traits were lost or removed through evolution. Removed how? Evan asked. The medic hesitated. That hesitation made the room feel colder. Through peace, it said finally. Through comfort, through long periods without extreme threat. Evan stared at the ceiling. He thought about Earth, about cities, soft beds, safe food, controlled environments. about how humans avoided pain and danger whenever possible. What triggered it? Lyra asked softly. All evidence points to perceived crushing threat combined with emotional shock, the medic replied. The human's body believed death was certain. Lyra's shoulders dropped. Because of me, Evan shook his head weakly. Because of the situation, he corrected. You didn't mean harm. But your body did not know that, she said. The station commander entered the room then. Commander Rithak was a tall reptilian being, his scales dark green and marked with silver scars. He carried authority like weight in the air. Report, he said. The medic spoke quickly, explaining the readings. As they did, Rithak's eyes narrowed. He looked at Evan with new interest, not curiosity but calculation. So, Rithak said slowly, humans are not as harmless as we believed. Evan did not like the way that sounded. I didn't choose this, he said. I don't even understand it. Rithak nodded once. That may be true, but others will be very interested. Others? Evan asked. Before Rithak could answer, alarms suddenly rang through the medical wing. Not the loud evacuation alarms, but sharp, focused alerts. A technician's voice came through the speakers. Commander, we have detected unauthorized data transmission from internal medical systems. Rithak's jaw tightened. Source: unknown. But the data package included human biological scans. Lyra's eyes widened. Someone leaked it. Yes, Rithak said, and that means this is no longer a medical issue. Evan felt fear crawl into his chest. What does that mean for me? It means, Rithak said carefully, that you may be in danger. The station went into partial lockdown. Doors sealed. Patrol units moved through corridors. Evan was transferred to a secure observation room deeper inside the medical wing. The room was small but comfortable. A single window looked out into space, stars scattered like distant fire. Evan sat on the edge of the bed, holding a cup of warm, nutrient drink that he had not touched. Lyra stood near the door, arms at her sides. I never wanted this, she said. I thought it was just a joke. Evan looked at her. In my culture, he said slowly, we have a saying. Strength shows itself when it has to. Maybe that's what happened. She tilted her head. You speak as if this is normal. It's not, he said, but maybe it was always there. She hesitated, then asked, Are you afraid of yourself? He thought about it, about how easy it had felt for a moment to resist something that should have crushed him. Yes, he admitted, a little. The door opened and Commander Rithak entered again, this time alone. The council has been informed, he said. They want you transferred to a core world for further study. Evan's heart sank. Study, he repeated. I'm not a weapon. Rithak studied him. That remains to be seen. Lyra stepped forward. He is a civilian, she said firmly. And a station crew member. Rithak looked at her. You triggered this. She did not deny it. Then I will take responsibility. You will not take him by force. For a moment the commander said nothing. Then he spoke quietly. There are ships already adjusting course toward this station. Some are not friendly. Evan stood up slowly. Because of me. Yes, Rithak said, because of what you represent. Silence filled the room. Finally, Evan spoke. Then we need to be ready. Lyra stared at him. Ready for what? He looked at his hands again. They were normal now, weak-looking, human. For whatever wakes up next, he said. And far beyond Haven Delta, unseen ships moved through the dark, drawn by a signal that proved humans were not finished yet. The secure wing of Haven Delta felt smaller with every passing hour. Evan sat near the window, watching distant stars drift slowly as the station rotated. His body felt normal again, too normal. The strange heaviness, the hidden strength had faded like a dream. If not for the worried looks and sealed doors, he might have believed nothing had happened. But things had changed. Outside the room, armed patrol units moved more often now. The station lights were dimmer, shifted to alert mode. Every system check took longer and every crew member spoke more quietly. Lyra stood near the door, arms crossed, eyes sharp. She was no longer playful. The joking alien girl from before was gone, replaced by someone serious and alert. "You should rest," she said softly. "I can't," Evan replied. "Every time I close my eyes, I think about those ships." 3 unknown vessels had entered the outer sensor range. They had not responded to hails. Their designs did not match any friendly registry. They were waiting. Commander Rithak entered the room with 2 advisors. His movements were controlled, but the tension showed in his rigid posture. "We have confirmed the source of the data leak," Rithak said. "An embedded observer from a neutral intelligence network. They sold the information within minutes." "Sold it to who?" Evan asked. "To several parties," Rithak replied. "Most are curious. One is aggressive." Lyra's jaw tightened. "The Varn Collective," Rithak nodded. "They believe strength should be owned, controlled, used." Evan felt a chill. "They want me." "They want what you represent," Rithak corrected. "A proof that humans are not as limited as believed." Evan stood up. "Then hide me, erase the data." "That is no longer possible," Rithak said. "The information has spread too far." Silence filled the room again. Finally, Evan spoke. "What do they think humans are now?" Rithak looked at him carefully. A question mark. That was worse than being seen as weak. Hours later, the station council gathered in a secure chamber. Evan was present by request, seated among beings far older and more powerful than him. Lyra stood behind him, silent support. A projection appeared in the center of the room, showing ancient records, blurred images, damaged files, incomplete histories. "These records were sealed," one council member said. "We believed them myths." The projection shifted, showing early humans on hostile worlds. Harsh environments, massive predators, primitive tools. "Humans evolved under extreme pressure," another voice said. "Their adaptability was alarming." Evan watched in silence. "They did not overpower the galaxy," the council member continued. "They endured it, survived it." And that frightened many. The projection changed again, this time showing treaties, alliances, genetic drift charts. "Over time," the voice said, "humans became peaceful. Their extreme traits went dormant. The galaxy relaxed." Lyra felt something twist in her chest. "You let yourselves believe they were harmless." "Yes," the council member admitted. "It was easier." Evan finally spoke. "So what happens now?" Before anyone could answer, alarms sounded again, this time louder, sharper. "Incoming vessels have crossed defensive perimeter," a voice announced. "Varn Collective signatures confirmed." The chamber erupted into motion. Rithak turned to Evan. "We will evacuate you." "No," Evan said suddenly. Everyone froze. "I won't run," Evan continued. His voice shook, but he stood tall. "If they want to see what humans are, then hiding won't help." "That is not bravery," one council member warned. "That is foolishness." "Maybe," Evan replied. "But I'm tired of being treated like something fragile that needs to be moved around." Lyra stepped forward. "He is right. If you hide him, they will hunt all humans next." The council hesitated. Outside, the station shook as distant weapons fire echoed through the structure. Defensive turrets activated. Rithak made a decision. "Prepare the station for lockdown defense," he ordered, "and bring Evan to observation deck 7. Evan's heart raced as they moved through corridors filled with red light and warning sounds. Crew members ran past them. Some stared at Evan, not with mockery but with fear and hope. Observation Deck 7 was a wide chamber with reinforced windows and heavy shielding. Beyond the glass, one of the Varn ships loomed, dark, angular, and heavily armed. A transmission request came through immediately. "They want to speak to the human," a technician said. Rithak looked at Evan. "This is your choice." Evan swallowed, then nodded. "Open the channel." The image of a Varn commander appeared, tall, armored, eyes glowing with sharp intelligence. "So," the Varn said, "the rumors are true." Evan met its gaze. "I'm just a technician." The Varn smiled thinly. "No, you are a key." "What do you want?" Evan asked. "You," the Varn replied. "And through you, access to what humans once were." "No," Evan said simply. The Varn's expression hardened. You will not survive refusal. Evan felt fear surge, but also something else. A quiet heat deep in his chest. Not rage, not hatred, resolve. Then you should have come sooner, he said. The Varn cut the transmission. Moments later, the attack began. Energy blasts struck the station's outer shields. The impact threw Evan to the floor. Lyra grabbed him, pulling him behind a console. "Stay down," she shouted. The deck shook violently, lights flickered, alarms screamed. A breach warning sounded from a nearby corridor. "They're boarding," Rithak said through the comms. Evan felt the pressure again, not as strong as before but growing. He pushed himself up, breathing hard. His muscles tightened, his senses sharpened. He could hear distant footsteps, metal cutting, voices shouting orders. Lyra stared at him. "Evan, your readings." "I know," he said. "It's happening again." The corridor door exploded inward. Armored Varn soldiers rushed in, weapons raised. Lyra moved to shield Evan. "Don't," Evan said. He stepped forward. The first blast hit him square in the chest. It should have killed him. Instead, his body absorbed the force. The pressure surged. His feet slid back, but he stayed standing. The room went silent for half a second. Then Evan moved. He didn't think, he reacted. He grabbed a fallen metal support and swung it with strength he didn't know he had. The impact crushed armor. Another soldier fell. Evan pushed forward, protecting Lyra and the crew behind him. He was not graceful. He was not trained. But he was unstoppable. The Varn retreated, shocked and disorganized. When it was over, Evan collapsed to his knees, breathing hard. The pressure faded again, leaving exhaustion behind. Lyra rushed to him, catching him before he fell. "You saved us," she whispered. Evan looked around at the damaged room, the stunned faces. "I didn't know I could do that," he said. Rithak's voice came through the comms, filled with disbelief. "The Varn are withdrawing." Evan closed his eyes. The galaxy had just seen a glimpse of something it had forgotten. And it was no longer laughing at humans. The station did not celebrate after the Varn retreated. There was no cheering, no relief-filled laughter. Haven Delta remained tense, wounded, and quiet. Emergency lights stayed on. Smoke drifted through damaged corridors. The sound of repair drones filled the air like distant insects. Evan sat on the floor of observation deck 7, his back against a cracked console. His hands trembled uncontrollably now. Whatever strength had carried him through the fight was gone again, leaving only pain and exhaustion behind. Lyra knelt beside him, one arm wrapped around his shoulders to keep him upright. Her glowing lines flickered weakly, matching his breathing. "Easy," she said softly. "You pushed yourself too far." "I didn't feel it then," Evan replied. His voice was rough. "Only now." "That is how survival instincts work," said a medic approaching with a scanner. "They give everything, then they leave nothing." The medic paused, looking at the readings with disbelief. "You should not be conscious." Evan managed a weak smile. "People keep telling me that." They moved him carefully onto a hovering medical platform and guided him toward the deeper medical wing. Crew members watched as he passed. Their expressions had changed. There was fear still, but also respect, and something else. Hope. Word spread quickly across the station. The human had stood against the Varn. The human had not broken. In the command center, Commander Rithak studied the damage reports in silence. Hull breaches sealed. Shields at 40%. Casualties minimal, far fewer than expected. "All because of one civilian," an advisor said quietly. Rithak did not respond immediately. His thoughts were heavy. The galaxy had balanced itself on assumptions for centuries. Today, one assumption had cracked. "Get me the council," he said at last. "Immediately." Evan woke hours later. The room was dim, lit only by soft medical lights. His body felt like stone. Every breath hurt, but he was alive. Lyra sat beside his bed, her head resting against the edge, eyes closed. She looked smaller somehow, less confident. He shifted slightly. She woke at once. "You're awake," she said, relief flooding her voice. "Still here," Evan replied. That's good, right? She nodded quickly. Very good. Silence stretched between them. Then she said, they are arguing about you. Evan sighed. Of course they are. The council is divided, she continued. Some want to protect you, some want to study you. Some want to control you. That sounds familiar, Evan said. Lyra looked down at her hands. My people once feared humans, she admitted. Not your strength, but your will. You do not stop easily. Evan thought about that, about standing in front of the Varn soldiers, about how fear had been there, but it hadn't ruled him. I didn't want to fight, he said. I just didn't want anyone hurt. That may be the most frightening kind of strength, Lyra replied. Later, Commander Rithak entered the room. He stood stiffly, his expression serious. You forced the Varn to retreat, he said. They did not expect resistance. I didn't defeat them, Evan said. I slowed them down. It was enough, Rithak replied. They will rethink future actions. Evan studied the commander's face. What happens now? Rithak did not answer immediately. The council has made a temporary decision, he said finally. You will not be transferred. You will remain here under protection. And after that, Evan asked. That depends on you. Evan frowned. On me. Yes, Rithak said. You have proven that humans are not passive. The galaxy will respond. Some will approach with curiosity, others with fear. I never asked to represent my species, Evan said quietly. Rithak inclined his head. History rarely asks permission. After Rithak left, Evan lay staring at the ceiling. His thoughts were heavy. He had lived his life quietly, fixing machines, avoiding conflict. Now entire fleets adjusted their plans because of him. I just wanted to be normal, he said softly. Lyra leaned closer. Normal is not always safe, she said. Sometimes it is just unseen. The next day, Haven Delta received a message. It was not from the Varn, it was from Earth. Human authorities had finally learned what happened. The message was calm, controlled, but underneath it was urgency. They wanted Evan to come home. Evan watched the message in silence, surrounded by council observers and station officers. They are worried, one council member said. They fear retaliation. They should, another replied. The galaxy has noticed them again. Lyra looked at Evan. What do you want to do? That question echoed louder than any alarm. Evan closed his eyes. Earth was home, it was safe, familiar, quiet. But running now would send a message too that humans still hid when afraid. I won't leave, Evan said slowly. Not yet. The room reacted instantly. Shock, murmurs, disagreement. You would stay here, a council member asked. Knowing the risk. Yes, Evan replied, his voice was steady. Because if I leave, someone else will take my place, and they might not care who gets hurt. Lyra felt pride rise in her chest. You are choosing responsibility, she said. I'm choosing to stand where I already am, Evan replied. That same cycle, a small Varn probe drifted near the edge of sensor range. It did not attack, it only observed. Evan stood on an observation balcony looking out into space. Lyra joined him. They are watching, she said. Let them, Evan replied. He felt the pressure again, but this time it did not overwhelm him. It settled, controlled, like something learning restraint. I think it's changing, he said. Lyra tilted her head. Your ability? Yes, Evan replied. Before it reacted to fear, now it listens. She studied him carefully. That is dangerous. Or necessary, he said. Behind them, Haven Delta continued repairs. Life moved forward. But the station was no longer just a research hub. It was a symbol, a place where the galaxy had been reminded of something important. That humans did not roar loudly. They did not dominate space. They endured, and when pushed too far, they stood their ground. Far away, aboard a Varn command vessel, leaders reviewed the battle footage again and again. The image of Evan absorbing the blast replayed endlessly. This changes things, one said. Yes, another replied. It changes everything. Back on Haven Delta, Evan took a slow breath. Part of him was still afraid, but another part, ancient and awake, was ready. Not for conquest, but for whatever came next. The quiet hum of Haven Delta was no longer comforting. Repairs continued, but the station's corridors carried a tension that had never existed before. Ships from distant systems lingered at sensor range. Patrols moved with more precision. Even casual conversations among the crew were measured, careful. Evan could feel it, the weight of eyes that were not his own, watching, judging, calculating. He walked slowly through the hall, his hands tucked into his pockets, trying not to draw attention. The last days had changed him. He had faced forces far beyond his expectations, and yet, somehow, he had survived. The lingering power within him had returned to dormancy, but he knew it would never fully sleep again. Lyra walked beside him, her usual playful energy subdued, replaced with a quiet alertness. She had remained by his side through every meeting, every scan, and every threat. Somehow that made her more important to him than he could easily put into words. "We should eat something," Lyra said, breaking the silence. "Even heroes get hungry." Evan smiled faintly. "Heroes, I wouldn't go that far." "You saved half the station," she said. "That's enough for me." They entered the dining area. The room was calm for once, though the hum of distant machinery reminded everyone of the recent attack. Crew members glanced at Evan as he passed. Some nodded respectfully. Others avoided his gaze entirely. He had become more than human to them, a living proof that appearances could be deceiving. Sitting at a table near the window, Evan looked out at the stars. The blue gas giant loomed in the distance, peaceful, yet contrasting sharply with the chaos his presence had stirred across the galaxy. He didn't know what the future held, but he knew that he would never be treated the same again. Lyra sat opposite him, glancing at him with curiosity. "Do you ever think about what it means?" she asked. "What?" Evan replied. "That all this, the way the galaxy sees humans now, how they'll react, how much attention you're getting." Evan sighed. "I never wanted attention. I never wanted anyone to notice me. And now," he shook his head, "now it feels like the galaxy is waiting for me to move, to act, to show what humans are capable of." Lyra reached across the table, resting her hand on his. "Maybe that's not so bad." Evan looked at her, surprised. "Not bad. Humans have been underestimated for too long," she said simply. "Maybe it's time someone saw the truth, and you are the one showing it." He didn't know how to respond. He had never sought this kind of responsibility. All he had wanted was to fix machines, live quietly, and avoid trouble. Yet now trouble had found him and he had stood firm. The station suddenly shook and alarms rang sharply. Evan and Lyra jumped to their feet. "Another attack," Lyra whispered, her eyes scanning the room. Evan moved to the window, scanning the outer sensor feed. Nothing. No ships approaching, no weapons firing, just the usual rotation of debris and distant satellites. "It's the Varn," a nearby technician said, rushing over. "They're still scanning." "They haven't left our sector entirely." Evan's jaw tightened. "Then they'll keep watching, waiting for a weakness." "They're not going to find one," Lyra said firmly. "Not while you're here." Her confidence bolstered him more than he expected. He realized something important. This wasn't just about strength. It was about will. Humans had survived for centuries not because they were the strongest species, but because they were persistent, clever, and willing to endure. He had felt that within himself during the fight. That strength hadn't been physical alone. It had been determination, courage, and the instinct to protect those around him. The station council called an emergency meeting later that day. Evan and Lyra attended. Various species crowded the chamber: reptilians, avians, energy beings, even several Keltari like Lyra. All eyes were on Evan. One council member, a tall insectoid with segmented eyes, spoke first. "This human has survived situations no other species would. His biology, his instincts, they are unlike anything recorded in recent history." Evan remained quiet, letting the words settle. He wasn't proud. He wasn't showing off. He simply understood that the perception of humans was changing. Another member, an elderly reptilian, added, If what we have witnessed is accurate, humans may have latent abilities long thought extinct. We must treat them differently. Evan glanced at Lyra. She nodded slightly, a small sign of encouragement. "What do you suggest?" Rithak asked. The council fell silent. Every species present seemed aware that their decisions could have far-reaching consequences. Evan finally spoke, his voice calm but firm. "I don't want humans to be feared. I don't want to be used as a weapon. We've survived this long because we adapt, because we endure, because we care about each other. That's our strength. Don't try to control it." The chamber remained quiet. His words had weight, not because he was physically imposing, but because they carried honesty, clarity, and conviction. After hours of debate, the council reached a decision. Evan would remain at Haven Delta under their protection, monitored for safety, but not studied as a weapon. Humans would be acknowledged as a species capable of extraordinary resilience, but they would not be forced into the spotlight as combatants. Later, Evan and Lyra returned to the observation deck. The stars stretched endlessly beyond the glass, silent and infinite. "You changed something today," Lyra said softly. "I don't feel like I did," Evan replied. "You did," she said firmly. "Every species here, they've seen what humans can do, and more importantly, they've seen why we do it. You've reminded them that humans don't fight for glory. We fight because it matters." Evan looked out at the gas giant, feeling a quiet sense of calm. The galaxy was watching, yes, but now it would also listen. Humans were no longer just quiet observers. They were a presence that could not be ignored. Days passed. Life on Haven Delta returned to a semblance of normal. Repairs were completed. Patrols maintained heightened awareness, but the constant threat lessened. And throughout it all, Evan and Lyra remained close, supporting each other quietly. One evening, Lyra turned to him as they watched the sun rise over the gas giant. "Do you ever think you'll go home?" she asked. Evan considered it. "I don't know, I always thought I would, but now," he paused. "Maybe home isn't just a place. Maybe it's where you stand and do what needs to be done. And right now, this is where I'm needed." She smiled, her glowing lines brightening subtly. "I'm glad you're staying, not just for the station, but for you." He looked at her and realized that this journey had changed him in ways he had never expected. He was still the quiet human, the technician, the observer, but now he was also a symbol, not because he wanted it, but because he had to be. Far beyond Haven Delta, the Varn analyzed their recent defeat. The footage of Evan had been shared across fleets. Their commanders argued and debated strategies, but one truth became clear: humans could no longer be dismissed. Back on the station, Evan returned to his workshop. Machines and panels waited patiently for him, oblivious to the galactic significance surrounding their user. He worked quietly, methodically, with Lyra nearby. Sometimes she watched, sometimes she assisted, and sometimes, just sometimes, she leaned against the wall and let him work in silence, letting the world's chaos fade away. At night, Evan would stand on the observation deck, watching distant stars. The galaxy had shifted. Humans had been underestimated for too long, and he had reminded them why humans endured, persisted, and survived. It wasn't power or size that defined them. It was resolve. Compassion. Courage when no one else expected it. Evan did not know what challenges lay ahead or what fleets would come searching for him next. But he did know this: he would face them as a human, not as a weapon, not as a curiosity, but as someone who stood, who protected, who endured, and reminded the galaxy that even the smallest, quietest species could change the course of events if they refused to break. Lyra stepped up beside him, her hand brushing his. "Whatever comes next," she said, "we'll face it together." Evan nodded. The stars stretched endlessly before them, silent witnesses to the promise. The galaxy had seen what humans could do, and now it would never forget. For the first time in his life, Evan felt fully alive. Not because of strength, not because of fear, but because he had found a place where being human meant more than simply surviving. It meant enduring, standing firm, and showing that even the quietest among them could leave the loudest mark. And somewhere deep inside, he knew this was only the beginning. The galaxy had awakened to humans, and humans were ready to rise, quietly, patiently, and unshakably as they always had. Haven Delta was no longer just a station. It was a symbol. And Evan, he was no longer just a human. He was proof. Proof that when humans stood, the universe had to pay attention.